The campfire's haunting melody. It was the middle of October, and the chill of autumn had descended upon the small town of Ravenswood. The leaves had turned a fiery red and golden hue, and the crisp, cool air hinted at the approaching winter. For a group of friends from Ravenswood High School, it was the perfect time for their annual camping trip deep in the heart of the Blackwood forest. Ben, the self-proclaimed outdoorsman of the group, had planned the trip meticulously. He had chosen a remote spot known only to the most dedicated campers, nestled far away from civilization. Along with him were Sarah, his adventurous girlfriend, Mark, the laid-back jokester, and Lisa, the ever-cautious member of the quartet. The group set out early on a Friday morning, their backpacks heavy with tents, food, and supplies. As they drove deeper into the forest, the towering trees closed in around them, creating an eerie tunnel of rustling leaves and shadows. Sarah clutched Ben's hand tightly, excitement mixing with a hint of nervousness. The woods held stories of lost travelers, strange sightings, and whispers of ancient curses. The afternoon sun filtered through the dense canopy, casting mottled patterns on the forest floor. They reached their chosen campsite, a small clearing surrounded by ancient trees, as the day gave way to twilight. Ben and Mark swiftly set up the tents while Sarah and Lisa prepared a campfire. Darkness fell quickly, and the forest seemed to come alive with unseen creatures, their eyes gleaming in the dim light. Sitting around the campfire, they shared stories, laughter, and marshmallows roasted to perfection. As the night deepened, the forest grew quieter, and a hushed tension settled over the group. It was then that they heard it, the faintest sound like a distant melody carried on the wind. "What is that?" Lisa asked, her voice trembling. The others strained to listen, the eerie tune becoming more distinct as it grew closer. It was a haunting melody, a sad and lilting tune that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere all at once. It sent shivers down their spines. "I've never heard anything like it," Ben admitted, exchanging puzzled glances with his friends. The music seemed to beckon them, drawing them deeper into the forest. Sarah stood up, her eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the flickering campfire. "We should follow it," she suggested, her voice distant and dreamy. Mark laughed nervously. "You're kidding, right? That's some Blair Witch stuff right there. No way, man." But Sarah couldn't resist the enchanting melody. She took a few steps towards the source of the sound, her friends calling out to her to stop. Ignoring their warnings, she continued, her eyes glazed over, as if in a trance. With worried glances exchanged, the remaining trio reluctantly followed her. The music grew louder, echoing through the trees and seeming to wrap itself around them like a ghostly shroud. They ventured further into the forest, their flashlights cutting through the inky darkness. As they walked deeper into the heart of the Blackwood forest, the trees closed in around them, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes. The temperature dropped, and their breaths became visible puffs in the frigid air. Sarah's steps grew more determined, guided by an unseen force, while Mark, Ben, and Lisa struggled to keep up. The melody led them to a small, decrepit cabin hidden among the gnarled trees. It was old and rotting, its windows shattered and the door hanging off its hinges. But the music seemed to emanate from within, beckoning them closer. Sarah reached for the doorknob, her hand trembling. "No!" Ben shouted, rushing forward to stop her. But it was too late. Sarah had already pushed the door open, and the haunting melody swelled to a deafening crescendo, drowning out their cries of protest. Inside, the cabin was shrouded in darkness, save for the dim glow of a single candle that flickered on a dusty table. And there, in the center of the room, stood a decrepit old piano, its keys covered in dust and cobwebs. Yet, despite its apparent neglect, the piano played the mournful melody on its own, the keys moving as if touched by invisible hands. Terrified, Ben, Mark, and Lisa watched in horror as Sarah approached the piano. her eyes glazed over, her fingers trembling as if compelled by an otherworldly force. She began to play, her music harmonizing with the haunting melody. The room seemed to come alive with spectral energy, shadows dancing on the walls, and the temperature plummeted to bone-chilling lows. As the music reached its peak, a ghostly figure materialized in the corner of the room, its form flickering in and out of existence. It was a spectral pianist, his fingers moving in perfect synchronization with Sarah's, his hollow eyes fixed on her, and he sang along in a mournful, wordless lament. Terror overwhelmed the trio. They screamed for Sarah to stop, but she was trapped in the music's grip, her body swaying to the rhythm, her eyes vacant. Desperation set in as they tried to pull her away from the piano, but their efforts were futile. The cabin seemed to shake with unearthly force as the melody reached a shattering climax. With one final, haunting note, Sarah's fingers left the keys, and the spectral pianist faded away, leaving only an eerie silence in his wake. Sarah collapsed to the floor, her trance broken. She had no memory of what had just transpired, but the terror in her friend's eyes told her that something unimaginable had occurred. They fled the cabin, leaving it behind in the darkness of the Blackwood forest. The haunting melody lingered in their minds, a ghostly reminder of the horrors they had witnessed. They stumbled back to their campsite, their bodies trembling with fear. As they huddled around the campfire, they vowed never to speak of the cabin or the haunting melody again. But the memory haunted their dreams, and the chilling notes of the melody continued to echo in their minds, a reminder that some mysteries of the forest should never be explored. And so, they spent a sleepless night in the heart of the Blackwood forest, praying for the first light of dawn to banish the darkness and the haunting melody that had nearly consumed them all.